Delta State Polytechnic students protest 5,000 COVID-19 test levy. Anti-SARS protest spread to Federal Capital Territory, Kwara State, Edo, Osogbo, Ibadan, as protests entered day 2 in Lagos. In international news, FBI foils alleged kidnap attempt on Michigan governor. And in sports, Desas Apoguma others set for Super Eagles debut.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Nigeria now has a total of 59,841 confirmed COVID-19 cases. The country has also reported no fatalities in 5 days. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control has confirmed 103 new cases on Thursday. Lagos led the park with 39 cases. Rivers had 21. The Federal Capital Territory recorded 10 other states also reported new infections. As of Thursday, Lagos had a total of 19,815 confirmed cases, followed by Abuja with 5,781. And CDC says a total of 939 COVID-19 tests are carried out every day. President Muhammadu Buhari has presented the proposed 2021 budget of 13 trillion naira to the National Assembly. The president says the budget he calls Budget of Economic Recovery and Resilience will address key economic issues as the country tries to recover from the impact of the coronavirus and the oil price drop. Correspondent Didi Badmos has the details.
It's an ambitious budget and comes at a time when Nigeria's revenue has dropped by an estimated 60% as a result of the fall in oil prices and the headwinds from the COVID-19 pandemic. And the president did not try to play down on the difficult road ahead while presenting the budget before a packed House of Parliament.
The Nigerian economy is currently facing serious challenges, with the macroeconomic environment being significantly disrupted by the coronavirus pandemic. GDP growth is projected to be negative in the third quarter of this year. As such, our economy may lapse into the second recession in 4 years, with significant adverse consequences.
Like that of 2020, the 2021 budget is a deficit one, as almost half of the funding would have to come from borrowing.
2021 budget deficit, inclusive of government-owned enterprises and projected loans, is projected at 5.2 trillion naira. This represents 3.64% of estimated GDP, slightly above the 3% threshold set by the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007.
Other key highlights of the budget pegs the benchmark oil price at $40 per barrel and crude production, including condensate, at 1.18 million barrels per day. The exchange rate is fixed at 379 naira to the dollar, while GDP growth rate is projected at 3% and inflation rate at 11.95%. But analysts fear the budget may not be realistic.
I think that budget is overly optimistic. Beyond the revenue from oil, the major revenues will be coming from other sources of other independent sources, which I think will be difficult to achieve. Revenues from customs, revenue from Nigerian post authorities, and government enterprises. I do not think the economy would have sufficiently recovered as to lead to achievement of the budget provisions. The government needs to be more realistic in its projections, and if it does that, it will also help us to review our approach to managing our public finance or building infrastructure.
The lawmakers are now expected to begin serious work on the budget before the final document will be returned to the president for his assent. So there's still every likelihood some of the parameters of the budget may be adjusted before the final document is ready.
Ondo State governorship election is just some hours away. Presidential Task Force on Coronavirus Pandemic has warned that no eligible voters in the 18 local government areas will be allowed to participate in the election without face mask. National Coordinator of the PTF, Dr. Sani Aliyu, announced this on Thursday during the Task Force media briefing in Abuja. He said there are 1.5 million eligible voters in 3,000 polling units across the state. Aliyu said voters, candidates and officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, would be required to follow the anti-COVID-19 guidelines put in place for elections. Aliyu further said personal protective equipment supplies are available to electoral officers. He also said sensitive materials would be disinfected. It's day 2 of mass protest in Lagos demanding for the abolition and proscription of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, an arm of the Nigeria Police. Students and youths rallied round the city on Tuesday and early Wednesday morning in a peaceful march to the governor's office and the police headquarters as the agitation spread to other parts of the country. In the Federal Capital Territory, scores of protesters marched to the Nigeria Police Force headquarters in Abuja on Thursday, calling for the scrapping of the police squad. Protesters caused traffic gridlock in Abuja city center, where the force headquarters are located. They dramatized police killings by pouring red paint on the roads and chanting anti-SARS songs. Force headquarters spokesman Frank Uba is also Deputy Commissioner of Police, says SARS cannot be scrapped because it is still needed to combat armed robbery and other violent crimes across the country. In Ilorin, protesters converged on the popular General Post Office area before marching on Ahmadu Bello Way to the headquarters of the State Police Command and then the Kwara State House of Government House, chanting anti-SARS songs as they carried placards with various inscriptions like "End SARS now" and "Stop killing our youth." Former Police Inspector General Mike Okuro said on Thursday, rather than scrapping SARS, it should be rebranded and refocused for effective service delivery. Lagos Deputy Governor Obafemi Hamzat says has now challenged the Nigeria Police Force to prosecute wayward policemen and bring them to book. He made the call while addressing protesters who had spent the night in front of the Lagos State House of Assembly. The Delta State Polytechnic students have staged a protest against a 5,000 naira COVID-19 fee imposed by school management on all returning students for the new academic session. The school management says this is to prepare for the health and safety as students return to school. The students characterized the levy as extortion and an illegal charge. Coming up, African stories. South African labor unions wage national strike. And later, international news, attempt to kidnap Michigan governor foiled by the FBI.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Members of the largest trade union federation in South Africa have embarked on a nationwide strike and have taken to the streets to protest against low wages and the government's lack of response toward the COVID-19 pandemic. Correspondent Angela Coppola reports from Johannesburg.
The organizers got permission for the strike provided they adhere to strict COVID-19 measures. Top of mind was a wage dispute with government.
We have a 3-year term agreement, and we thought government should have consulted with us properly, engaged with us properly, not through the arrogance that they are displaying all over the place. So we expected them to discuss with us. We knew that the country is under distress, but then all the time when there is a crisis, the working class are made scapegoats. They are suffering.
One of the main issues the protesters are on the streets about is corruption, whether it's in protective equipment procurement or elsewhere in government.
Yeah, we want the government to stop talking and start taking action against those who have been implicated in corruption. The time for talking is over.
It is not us who have collapsed ESCOM. It is not us who are at the Zondo Commission of Inquiry. It is not us. It is those who are in government who are at the Zondo Commission.
The Union Federation members have had enough. They want action taken or there will be consequences, they say.
Workers have got nothing to lose but their chains. All what we are going to say, this is an ultimatum. You do this or this is what is coming to you going to the elections.
COVID has changed the way that people are protesting, but it doesn't mean that the issues aren't as relevant as they were before.
Now, what does one do when COVID-19 shuts down his primary place of employment and decimates his finances? Well, Ugandan teachers are experiencing that scenario and are looking for alternatives as long schools closure has left them broke. Correspondent Isabel Nakia reports.
Maureen Nantongo has found a new passion in the fruits business. She's moved from the classroom to selling passion fruits in the capital, Kampala. The junior university lecturer says COVID-19 left her jobless and life was hard.
I look after 5 people. I have my mother who's a stroke patient. I have my brother who stays with me. I had a maid who I could not say please leave. The maid has a child. So I had to endeavor that my maid gets food. I make sure that my mother has medication. So I just had no option but to work. So I had to put my, how do I call it, not professionalism, but the classy bit of it to go down into what we call, some people would call it dirty work.
With an initial capital of $100 that was given to her by a friend, Nantongo started buying passion fruits from farmers in western Uganda. She got most of her customers online because of restrictions on public transport during the lockdown. She now makes door-to-door deliveries.
In Kabale, I had to sleep in the market, and then in the morning I went to the farmers. I just went to the ladies who sell them and I asked them, I want to buy passion fruits, can you direct me? So out of those ones, one of them took me to the farmer.
A good number of teachers, especially those in private schools, had to look for alternative work to sustain themselves. Since school closed in March, school owners say they couldn't afford to continue paying teachers. Uganda is reopening school for final year students only as part of lifting COVID-19 restrictions. But only 1.2 million learners are expected to report back on 15th October, meaning many teachers will still stay jobless.
We are recalling the upper class teachers. Then the lower class teachers, we can't recall them now because we need to sustain them. You know, sustaining a human being is very hard, especially when the income is not coming in. Yeah, that is where the problem is. But it has been very tough, and it is still very tough.
The government has opened up much of the economy, but with the partial reopening of schools, there's a lot of uncertainty on just when full operations will actually begin. Nantongo says she will continue with her passion fruit business, even if she is able to return to teaching again.
Egypt is reporting a slump in its external debt for the first time in more than 4 years. The Cabinet's Media Center says the country's total foreign debt decreased by 1.2% in the first quarter of this year compared to the last quarter.
Egypt's foreign debt has nearly doubled since 2016. Most of it has been used to fund aggressive economic reforms. It includes mega infrastructure projects, upgrading health and educational services, as well as launching multiple social welfare programs for the poor. But this year has seen Cairo successfully reverse its external debt curve, declining for the first time in 4.5 years.
The central bank figures show the external debt has dropped by $1.4 billion. It's an important indication about economic reforms and that income exceeds expenses. The central bank had said foreign debt is about 31% of GDP and is in the safe zone. The best indication for the safe zone is whether the country can pay its dues to loanees on time, and Egypt has always paid on time even during critical economic hardships. It has not missed any installment.
The Egyptian Central Bank announced this week it has repaid $20 billion in installments to creditors in only the first quarter of 2020. These are mainly short-term loans. But lately, the government has changed its strategy when selling bonds and treasury bills.
The government indeed has reverted to a strategy of borrowing on long-term repayment plans rather than short-term ones. Most loans now are repaid over 20 to 40 years. This gives the government more access to use its revenue instead of repaying creditors. Long-term loans mean smaller installments, which relieves burden off the budget and economy.
Last year, the state announced plans to reduce borrowing and instead concentrate on increasing sources of revenue. But the outbreak of the novel coronavirus has halted these efforts for now. More borrowing is expected in order to sustain the economy against the downturn caused by the pandemic.
When we return, international news. Attempts to kidnap Michigan governor foiled by the FBI. And later, sport. Desa's Apoguma, others set for Super Eagles debut.
You are watching ANN.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. What no one would have thought possible in the United States happened on Thursday. Some militia members were alleged to have hatched a plot to storm the Michigan state capitol, kidnap the governor, Democrat Gretchen Whitmer, and start a civil war. And it's not a movie plot, this is reality.
13 members of 2 militia groups who were preparing to kidnap and possibly kill me.
Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer thanked law enforcement on Thursday after they arrested 13 people, many linked to an anti-government militia group involved in alleged plots to abduct the Democratic governor and attack the state capitol building.
I also want to thank Attorney General Nessel and the U.S. Attorneys Burge and Schneider and their teams for pursuing criminal charges that hopefully will lead to convictions, bringing these sick and depraved men to justice.
Earlier at a press conference in Grand Rapids, U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Michigan, Andrew Burge, detailed a complicated plot to violently overthrow Michigan's government, an operation FBI agents became aware of on social media.
The alleged conspirators used operational security measures, including communicating by encrypted messaging platforms, conducted coordinated surveillance on the governor's vacation home, discussed detonating explosive devices to divert police from the area of the home, and that the group successfully detonated an improvised explosive device wrapped with shrapnel to test its anti-personnel capabilities.
Whitmer has been a frequent target of President Donald Trump over her efforts to enforce social distancing measures and tweeted in April, quote, "Liberate Michigan."
Stoking distrust, fomenting anger.
From the state's capital Thursday, the governor accused Trump of encouraging extremist groups, citing comments he made to the far-right Proud Boys at last month's presidential debate.
Right, Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
Hate groups heard the president's words not as a rebuke, but as a rallying cry, as a call to action.
Trump's Democratic challenger Joe Biden said he also thought the president's words encouraged violent domestic extremists.
The words of a president matter. And you saw what the head of the FBI said a couple days ago. He said the greatest terrorist threat in America is from white supremacists. Why can't the president just say, stop, 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 stop?
As of Thursday evening, Trump had not made any remarks related to the alleged kidnapping plot, but Michigan's Republican Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey said on Twitter, quote, "A threat against our governor is a threat against us all. We condemn those who plotted against her and our government. They are not patriots. There is no honor in their actions. They are criminals and traitors, and they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law."
Although the United States and Russia are yet to sign up, China has joined COVAX, the global COVID-19 facility backed by the United Nations. The U.S. said last month it will not join the global efforts to find a COVID-19 vaccine. More than 150 countries are setting up the COVID-19 vaccines global access facilities, COVAX.
China has formally joined the global COVID-19 vaccine facility known as COVAX, becoming the biggest economy to support the initiative to date. China and Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, signed an agreement on Thursday. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Hua Chunyin said in a statement that China has ample COVID-19 vaccine manufacturing capabilities and will prioritize supplying developing countries. She said the move is an important step to uphold the concept of a shared community of health for all and to honor China's commitment to turn COVID-19 vaccines into a global public good.
Brazil topped more than 5 million cases as of Thursday in the coronavirus pandemic that has spread to all corners of the country, including the indigenous tribes in the Amazon. The government has begun efforts to help the Amazon tribes fight the deadly pandemic. Correspondent Paulo Cabra reports.
These are the eastern edges of Brazil's Amazon region. It's home to several indigenous communities, like the Guajajara, the largest group here. But despite their relative isolation, communities all across the Amazon region have been hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. Official figures report almost 30,000 infections among Brazil's indigenous communities and more than 450 deaths. In March, the Defense and Health Ministries began this COVID-19 operation to assess the situation in indigenous lands and provide medical assistance where necessary. So far, they say they have been to communities that are home to a total of about 125,000 people, less than 20% of roughly 750,000 Indians living on Brazilian reservations.
We are testing everybody that comes for us for the coronavirus. And after this initial testing, they go to another triage to check if they need any further assistance from other healthcare professionals.
My children were all coughing, and I could hear something on her chest, so I brought them in to be checked. I heard about this coronavirus, but I don't know much about this. They are only coughing. God forbid it will be this coronavirus.
It wasn't. All the results came back negative for this family. But the Guajajara have not abandoned their traditional medicines either. Often symptoms are treated with local plants prescribed by healers.
We prepare the beverages with plants from our region and give to our people. This one, for example, we have used a lot recently. It's made from this tree bark.
Most of the people we have been speaking to here welcome this emergency operation, even if many do have complaints about the broader policies of President Bolsonaro's administration towards Brazil's indigenous populations.
The family of Cacique João Guajajara, one of the leaders in the Morro Branco village, say they are worried about the changes the Bolsonaro government has made to the federal agency responsible for indigenous affairs.
When we watch the news, we don't see the president speaking in the name of the Indians. He never does. Before, the indigenous agency helped us with everything, but not anymore. How can they? They don't have the resources. If they don't have them, how can they give them to us?
The Guajajara people consider their body paintings a way to shield them from danger, but they seem well aware that body paint is not enough to protect them from COVID-19.
Up next, sports. Desas, Akpoguma, others set for Super Eagles debut. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sport, Nigeria Football Federation says Syria Jessers, Chidera Ejuke, Kevin Akpoguma and goalkeeper Matthew Yakubu are ready to make their debut for the Super Eagles in today's international friendly against Algeria. The trio is part of the 6 new players called up for the games in Austria against the Desert Foxes and Tunisia. The new player, Desas, joined the team after being cleared by FIFA to represent Nigeria. The Hoffenheim defender stated that the dearth of talent in the Eagles influences the decision to snub Germany for Nigeria. More than 16,000 signatures have been collected toward a vote of no confidence in FC Barcelona's president, José María Bartomeu. Once the final results are submitted and a period of review passes, the board of directors will have between 10 and 20 working days to set a date for the vote. Barcelona now have 20 days to call a referendum to decide his fate. The president will be forced out if 2/3 of voters go against him. Joan Laporta and Victor Font are among top contenders for the job. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Have a great weekend.